Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Ramirez, and welcome to the Hit List Podcast, a podcast where me and a guest cross out films from our watch list and discuss them. This is Season 5, Episode 6, and I'm joined today by the most creative streamer on Twitch. Like, it should be a crime how awesome she is. AbraCatrena. Hello, Katrina. Thank you so much for returning for this show.
That was very sweet. I don't know. I'm just flabbergasted you're so just, craft bang me up. No, I'm kidding. I'm Katrina. I'm a crafting streamer. Like he said, I stream, we do photo shoots, we make full costumes. Yeah, we have a lot of fun over there.
So if you hear like an upgrade in audio, it's because I messed up. Today I'm joined by the most creative streamer on Twitch. It's a crime that she is so creative, and she has heard me say this 3 times already because I messed up.
It's sweet every single time. The first time, I think it was my fault, to be fair. I think it was my fault the first time.
Yes, but we fixed it immediately afterwards, like a minute into it. And then afterwards, it was like an hour. Ladies and gentlemen, it's AbraCatrena. Thank you, Katrina, for being back here.
Yes,
returning to the show.
To be back.
Thank you again also for re-recording this again.
No problem. I'm excited to rehash Barbarella one more time.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this, we recorded a whole episode, like almost an hour, discussing Barbarella, which is the film we're discussing today.
Yes.
And then right when we're almost about to finish, I realized that Zoom was not recording.
Oh no.
I have never been more disappointed in myself before. Well, maybe I have. But this time it was just like,
this is the most you've been disappointed in yourself. I feel like you're doing pretty darn good. So let's take that as a win, right?
A win is a win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just felt so bad because I had it recorded on my end, but I didn't have it recorded on Zoom. And Katrina, you also weren't recorded on your end either. So that's on me. I should have been a better director, better host.
Hey, it's okay. We're gonna make it better this time.
If anything, we know exactly what to say this time.
Yeah, it's like we had a rehearsal.
There we go. Just like Nathan Fielder would have wanted.
Exactly. So
I'm gonna do a different icebreaker today.
Okay.
We already heard. I heard your icebreaker, but you know what? That's gonna be lost in time. That's gonna be lost in media for us.
I'm fine with that being forgotten, honestly.
Let me ask you, what's your favorite scent?
Like
a fragrance. A fragrance.
Oh, okay. I was like seeing, hearing.
People always think
like the 5 senses. My favorite scent. I don't know if I have a particular favorite one. Hello, bud.
Stop it.
Oh, this gives me time to think about it. What is my favorite scent? Money. No, I'm kidding. No, I don't know. Oh, well, I feel like, when people are like, what's your favorite movie? And you don't have one and you just panic. Yeah, I know. No, that's too cheesy. Old books are good. I don't really like fresh cut grass. I like the character fresh cut grass.
Who is that?
It's in the new season of Critical Role, it's Sam Ringel's character. He's a cool robot.
I knew that, but for people who didn't know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cats. Smelling my cat's belly. There it is.
Your cat's belly.
Yep, cat's belly.
You just hold it up like that?
Cat people get it. I mean, dog people get it too. They probably like to smell and sniff their dogs. Maybe hamster people too. I don't know. Yeah, give them a little sniff.
Let me see if my dog will let me pick him up so I can sniff him.
It's like these cats lick themselves, but I still just want to smell him. They're cute. They're good babies.
Yeah, he won't let me pick him up.
No, he said no. Sorry.
It's like I don't understand dogs because like sometimes they'll just lie, sit at your feet like this, staring up at you, and you're like, you want to come up, and you try to pick him up. It's like no,
I just wanted to look. Don't touch me.
They're so weird.
No touching.
Today we're discussing Barbarella. Barbarella is a 1968 science fiction film directed by Roger Vadim, based on the French comic series of the same name by Jean-Claude Forest. The film stars Jane Fonda as the title character, a space traveler and representative of the United Earth government sent to find scientist Durand Durand, who has created a weapon that could destroy humanity. This film was on my watch list, and Katrina chose it from the huge list. Katrina, why this film out of the whole list I sent you?
Because I'm almost a little ashamed of myself. I am a costumer, I'm a costume designer, and Barbarella has inspired so many things, and I have never seen it. So it felt fitting, as it's also October, to see glorious Jane Fonda in her metallic fanciness.
Yeah, and as far as like why it was on my list, I still don't know why. How it got into my radar in the first place. I just remember seeing the very first striptease scene when I was younger, and being like, I could get into this, but I just never watched the whole film, and it's all in all its glory, quote unquote glory.
Glory.
So, what did you think of the movie? Like, what did you like? What did you think?
The costumes were great, and I can see that they were like really inspirational. Wow, Katrina learned words. This is our third time. Oh my gosh. The costumes were great. I really like the costumes. I could see where everybody pulled a lot of science fiction ideas from, but to me, the best part was the production design. Everything was practical, and her spaceship was insane. The opening scene where it looks like she's tumbling through space was all, I think it had to have been practical. It was 1968. I just was blown away by the sets, really.
Yeah, that's something that I liked as well. Like, the costumes were very unique. It reminded me of The Fifth Element, and then I learned later, because The Fifth Element took inspiration from this movie to make the costumes in that one. So it's just a lot of retro futurism that this movie embodies. And like I said, production design is pretty good. Like, for 1968, for a movie like that, for a very obscure film, very odd film, it's really, really good. And we said this in like our other recording, when we weren't recording, for all of the effort they went into the costumes, the production design, and the cinematography and the color design, none of that went into the plot or the story.
Not at all. Definitely not at all.
Not at all. So that's something we kind of like we both discussed. Like, we didn't really like how there was a quote unquote plot, but they didn't really follow it at all until the very last 10 minutes where it all comes to a head. And then, like you said, the ending sucked.
Oh my gosh. It just didn't. Yeah. Sucked is a good word.
Yeah. Do you want to describe the ending real quick? Like, as best as you can?
There is like a liquid lake that will destroy anything that it touches, and they release it on this whole planet, but it also makes sure there's nothing left behind. And an angel, a big blind angel named Pygar, takes Barbarella and the villain, flies them away into space. The end.
And what did Barbarella say? What did Barbarella ask Pygar? What did he say?
He goes, she asked him, why did you save the great, what is her name? The Great Tyrant? Like, it's literally like the Great Tyrant. And he goes, angels don't remember the past, or something like that. Like, I forget people's past sins, is basically what he said. And
it ends like that.
Yeah. He's like, I forgave her, is essentially what he says. Yeah.
Even with the context of the film, even if you watch the whole film, it still doesn't make sense.
No, it makes zero sense. Because he doesn't talk about that kind of stuff at all throughout the whole film. He's just kind of like he's almost like a child, honestly. Because he's like learning his way. Yeah.
I thought of him as like a dog.
And like, for viewers, he looks like Rocky Horror from Rocky Horror Picture Show. He's like blonde with like a little bob, right? He's got a blonde bob. He's in kind of a diaper. And then he has huge mechanical feathered wings that really work. And he's blind.
And he's blind.
Yes.
And if you don't remember his name, he says it a few times, like, I am Pygar.
Pygar. Yeah. And this is Barbarella's like main love interest.
Yeah. And she has a few trysts throughout the film, which let's discuss that. There are a few characters that she meets throughout the film. When she crash lands into this planet, she first meets some like alien creatures who look like little children. Who
creepy twins.
Yeah. Children of the Corn type of vibes, like you said before. And they take her prisoner and they lead her to their lair via a stingray pulled sled.
Yeah. It's literally like it's all practical, which makes this so cool. It's a stingray, and there's like two hooks in either eye, And then it's leading back to skis. And I think there's like kind of a joke where Barbarella is like, but I don't know how to ski. And she's in the middle, and there's two creepy twins on either side of her holding her hands, and they're skiing. They're just skiing. They're being sled by this stingray.
It doesn't make sense.
Makes no sense, but we were, and it also goes way too long. Like, and I guess
Yes.
they wanted to like show that they made this, but I was like, I don't need to watch a minute and a half of you going across this pond.
Yeah. And eventually she goes and meets some aliens that look like children that want to torture her by releasing killer dolls on her that want to like chew off
the
her
dolls.
costume.
We didn't talk about the dolls. Yeah, they just have like pointy teeth, and they just chomp walking towards her, and she's just screaming, and they bite her into a new outfit.
Yeah.
They chew away her clothes, and she gets a new look.
And then she's eventually saved by this one man who's called, I don't remember, the Watcher or whatever.
He was like a trapper. Like he looked like an old school trapper. I don't remember what his name. The Watchman. I can't remember.
I think so. Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he basically says, I could take you back to your ship. And then in the little wind, the sail boat thing that ski, I don't know what it's called.
Oh my gosh. It was like, it blew up with like hands.
Mm-hmm.
That had, and they were like the wacky waving inflatable tube men kind of, but clear, and then air like blew into that, and that was also practical, which was crazy. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And
weird.
And inside the little vehicle, she says, I don't know how I can repay you. And he's like, well, you can make love to me. I'm like, that's very forward to her.
Yeah, I was like, oh, and she's just kind of like, okay. And we're like, oh,
yeah. And
let's go.
Because apparently in this Earth, in the future, 35,000 years from now, they have sex the way they do in Avatar, where they just take some pills and just like hold hands to each other and simulate sex for about a minute.
Yeah, about a minute.
And
which we do see later on. But he didn't want to do that. He wanted to do the old school style.
The old school way. And she says, oh, but it's so distracting. Yeah,
there's distracting.
There's no maximum efficiency with it.
Yeah, like sex is down to efficiency in the future.
Yeah, and he keeps saying this, like, I know nothing of this. Like, she's like, you want the pills? Pills, I know nothing of this.
He's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know nothing of this. He didn't say, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. He says, I know nothing of this.
Right, because, I forgot, she changed her, like, dialect thing, so because they were speaking a completely different language, and she makes a joke. She's like, parlez-vous français? I'm like, they're not speaking French.
If they're not speaking English, they're probably speaking the other colonizer language.
Yep.
Yeah. So they were speaking Italian.
Yeah. But she kept going for French. Yeah, Italian.
Yeah, and what else? Yeah, then they do the dance with no pants, and she's singing. She's like,
it's all furs in there. Everything's covered in fur because he's like a trapper. And
then he fixes, quote unquote, fixes the spaceship. It doesn't work, and then she goes down into the underground, and that's where she meets Pygar, and that's the guy that she really likes. She really wants to have sex with him. She actually initiates it with him. At first,
inside a nest.
Inside a nest.
Yes,
inside a
literally,
nest.
He lives in a nest. They're like, he's an angel, or is he a giant bird? We're not sure. And she's like, that's so cool that you live in a nest. That was like a turn on for her. Do you remember that?
It's like so hot that you live in a nest. Oh my god,
so hot right now.
And I forgot that, like, when she first meets Pygar, she learns that he's blind and he has wings, but he can't fly because he has lost the will to fly. And then after having sex with her, he somehow found out the will to fly again. We learned that all he needed was some punani to fly. That's all.
And then he said, "Step 4, profit." Like, he's ready to go.
He's ready. He's like, yeah, that's all I needed. That's all I needed.
Yeah.
Who else did she sleep with in the film?
There was the guy with your favorite name.
The revolutionary. She meets a revolutionary who is hidden underground in the City of Evil, by the way. His name is Dildano.
Dildano.
And he doesn't want to do it the old way. He wants to do it her way, which is the simulated sex where, like, they hold hands and they show what it looks like, where basically when the orgasm, the hair unfurls, the hair curls up. But apparently it was his first time, and so not only did it happen to him like that way, but it's like smoking, like he almost is set on fire. Like I'm thinking like you almost killed this man, you know, just from like too much pleasure.
And it was funny too, because at the beginning of the movie, she was like, "Oh, well, do you want to take the pills?" And then by the end, she was like, "Well, I don't want to do it that way anymore." She was like, "That's not fun." And he was like, "But I want to." And she was like, "Okay, I guess." She was like over it.
Yeah, that dude missed his chance, you know.
Yeah, that scene was so weird because also, so they put their hands together and like she goes first, her hair curls, and then she's like here, and then he's still like holding his hand up, so she puts her hand up, and this dude appears, and he's like Captain, and then he's like, oh, because he knows what's going on. But Barbarella is conscious because they both like zone out to another dimension, but she's back now, so she's watching this guy watch her, and she's just like doing this. Essentially, it was so funny. Thumbs up, awkward smile. And I think that was it. Honestly, I guess it was only 3.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot more, but
it felt like it, but like it was like between other characters, I think. And there was also talk about dying by pleasure when the bad guy in the film, Durand captures her and puts her in like basically an orgasm torture machine.
Oh my gosh.
Where like you want to describe it how it looked? I think you described it better than I could.
Okay, so it's the shape of a coffin, and you see Barbarella's face with like a outline at the top of wood, and then below she's covered in like really long keys that look like organ keys, and he plays the organ at the end, so he's like essentially playing a coffin that like just her head shows, and like she starts getting like really sweaty, and like intense music is playing. And it's supposed to destroy her by pleasure, and it can't do it because she's too strong.
She's too strong for it.
Well, we know that Punani makes miracles, so why would they be able to destroy it, right? That's the moral of the story here, I think.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right after that happens, the pacing in the film just like, it was like slow, but then it goes like up. Yeah. Very quick. I guess because like when they're writing it, when they were making a film, they were like, wait a minute, like, we need to finish this movie.
They're like, we need an ending. They set it up at the beginning, and they were like, here's what you need to do. You need to find Duran, destroy the weapon, save the earth. And then she was like, all right, let's party. And then they're like, oh my gosh, we have to figure this out. In like the last 2 minutes, it felt like, I feel like I blinked and the movie was over. I was like, this movie was so slow and now it's done. Excuse me.
Yeah. And you said it better. Like it could have done better with a much more skilled editor.
Yes, they needed an editor. They needed better pacing. The pacing was really bad.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
Can you give an example?
Well, there was the stingray scene. There was also when she's rolling around, they have this ship that is all faux fur, like everything is covered. It's like a shag rug, like
floor to
basement,
ceiling,
like 70s basement, because there's like, you know, it goes down like the impressed like control pit, the cockpit and stuff. She rolls around because like the ship's being hit for a good minute or so, and we don't need that much. Like we got it. They just kept, they'd be like, oh, she's falling again. It was like maybe 2 minutes of her rolling around in the ship. That was like, we got it. The first roll. It was kind of funny after the third roll. The fifth roll, maybe it's coming back around, but by the 17th roll, I'm really far pulled from this. I'm out.
Yeah, definitely. And there was another scene where it's just like the fact that her ship kept getting destroyed.
Yes.
Like at different moments. Like,
her poor ship.
Is she getting off this planet or not? And then it's finally fixed and they send it up to space so like the villains wouldn't be able to get it. But it doesn't matter in the end because she doesn't go to it in the end at all.
Nope. It's like maybe that's where they were headed, but it's very unclear. But they were flying away with Pygar, going to space with the angel or bird.
And with the villain too, because apparently
the
angels don't.
well.
It's such a bizarre.
She was
film,
hot though. Got to save the hot babes. She showed up in an eye patch. I was like, capture me.
Now, you just reminded me of a joke I just told my friend. Well, like I have another friend. She was also on the podcast. She basically said on her story, like, gentlemen, if an emo girl wants to become your girlfriend during this month, beware, it's a trap. she will sacrifice you. And it has like a picture of a very hot emo woman. Like she's like scantily clad. Like she looks really hot. And I just text her like, listen, if she looks like this, I'm falling for that trap. I'm falling for that trap.
Trap successful.
I'm falling for it. So yeah, you just got to save the hot babes because, you know.
Got to save the hot babes. I want to bring up another scene that was just to show hot babes is they're in this city of evil and she's like looking for Duran Duran and she's running away. She just escaped jail. And then she walks into this open area where there's 3 giant circles filled with water and there's one man inside it. And there's a bunch of women, like hot babes, hot space babes, hookahing the essence of man. And she sits down with them instead of continuing. Like, clearly he's not with these hot babes, but she sits down and she's like, hey, where's this guy? And they're like, nah, babe, take some drugs. And she starts doing the hookah. And then
he captures her. Yeah.
Yeah. But hot babes, just babes.
Just gotta save him.
Yeah. Save the
every
babes.
time.
Yeah.
Whenever they're not saved, I get disappointed. Like, hey, why?
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 The set's really cool. The pacing sucks. Yeah. And there are some like really silly moments where you're like, this could have been like a really funny, campy like walk. But then you're like, oh no, they didn't want it to be. They didn't know what they wanted, I think, in that film.
Yeah. That's what I think too.
Yeah.
It could have been an email. So I want to talk into the production of this film. So as far as the costumes, all costumes in the film were designed by French costume designer Jacques Fonterey. I don't know how to pronounce French names. It's not my fault. The French just don't know how to write, I guess, or pronounce things. And it was manufactured by Sartoria Farini, with Barbarella costume in the final scenes being, as the credits put it, inspired by the ideas of fashion designer Paco Rabanne.
I think she changes 8 times. I wrote it down. I think it's about 8 times, and every outfit is great. Most of them are silver, but she does have one outfit that is green. That I like that one. Pretty, yeah, the green one is fun.
So the guy who wrote the comics, Forrest, he worked on the film's production design, and he was credited in the film as the artistic consultant. In an 1985 interview, he said that during production, he did not care about the original comic strip and was more interested in the film industry. He said later on that he thought the Italian artists that were behind this film were incredible. They could build anything in an extremely short time. Yeah. He saw all the daily rushes, and he said the choices that were made but for the final cut from those images were not the ones I would have liked, but I was not the director. It wasn't my affair. But it's just cool that he was just a part of the
it's super
production.
Cool that he was involved. Yeah,
because I'm going to repeat my joke from last time.
Yeah. Please.
Because nowadays, or it's been like this for a while now. Like a company will like look at an IP and the intellectual property from a small artist, be like, hey, we'll buy this for you for $2 and we'll make billions out of it.
Yeah, it sucks because nowadays they're like, oh, let me buy your art idea and turn it into not art, and they don't get paid enough for it either.
The most recent example I can think of is with Thor, the last movie that just came out.
Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah. So even though some of these artists and writers aren't the creators of Thor, they still wrote the comics that inspired the film, and they used those shots as direct one-to-one scenes, but it didn't work in the film because the film sucked.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, I didn't see the movie, but I
haven't watched it yet, but I've seen so many, and I like want to like it because it's Taika, right? It's Taika Waititi, and I enjoyed the latest Thor. I thought they were going on a fun path. I like the idea of the 80s, but everyone has said it's bad. I will still wait to give my I will watch it, but I don't think I've heard one good review.
Yeah, and I'm on Twitter a lot, unfortunately. And there's this one scene where it's like the head of a boy like magically appearing, and it just looks so bad.
Oh no! Yeah, I heard the CG's bad.
Yeah, so I was like, nah, I'm not watching this movie. I'm gonna watch it for free, and even then, I'll still feel robbed if it sucks. So the movie was filmed. Barbarella was shot in Rome, and to film the striptease title sequence, Fonda said that the set was turned upward to face the ceiling of the soundstage. A pane of thick glass was laid across the opening of the set with the camera hung from the rafters above it. Fonda then climbed onto the glass to perform the scene. So
cool. That is
it actually looks like she's floating in space.
Yes, I in the other take I said I thought at the beginning, I talk about this because it is the coolest, weirdest thing. I was like, oh, maybe they filmed her down on the ground and on a green screen, and then they put her in. But the fact that and it looks real, like it's so neat. It's a very cool special effect. It's truly, like you said before, it's movie magic.
And this is also the part where I talk about how she was basically tortured on set by her husband, because her husband's the director, by the way.
Her husband's the director. It's grounds for divorce. The more that you hear about how this was filmed, it's like, Jane, get out.
Like, get out.
She does. They get divorced.
So other scenes involved hanging Fonda upside down in an enormous vat of oil and dry ice, and her stomach being skinned when being shot through a plastic tube. And for the scenes involving the excessive pleasure machine, Fonda and Milo O'Shea were not told of the explosions that would happen on set, since the prop was rigged with flares and smoke bombs. Fonda explained that Vadim wanted us to look natural, so he didn't tell us what a big explosion there would be. When the machine blew up, oh my, flames and smoke were everywhere, and sparks were running up and down the wires. I was frightened to death, and poor Milo was convinced something had really gone wrong, and I was being electrocuted. Oh my God. Listen.
Like,
I'm not
there's no way. That's because I was like, how did he get away with not telling them that? And I was like, oh, because he's like, and I said this, he's like, my wife. And then he was like, I'll get away with it. You know, he pulled like an ask for forgiveness situation, and it's pretty messed up.
Yeah, I'm not.
This isn't a dramatic thriller. This is Barbarella.
Oh my God, really? Seriously.
Act being surprised and scared.
Like, you saw Pygar acting. Like, I'm pretty sure they can act surprised.
Yeah.
And
sure.
I'm not a confrontational person, right? But if this happened to me and the director did not tell me that it was happening and they just wanted my natural reaction, I would be pissed.
Oh my gosh.
And I would walk off set.
Uncontrollably upset.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Not cool whatsoever.
Yeah. The essence of not cool.
I'm also going to read some excerpts from an interview with Jane Fonda by Roger Ebert. He visited the set when they were making the film. I'm just going to read the first few sentences just so you can understand what she went through. When the press agent returned from Jane Fonda's dressing room, his face was grim. She's covered with gray noxema, he said. They tried grease, but the plaster kept sticking, so now they're trying noxema. You wouldn't believe what she's been through.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm going to talk about the bird scene.
Oh,
so
the birds. Yeah, we have to talk about the birds.
So Jane was to appear in a scene where about 2,000 hummingbirds would attack her and tear off her clothing. And
they're not, spoiler alert, they're not hummingbirds, because I don't know how they would have been able to do that. Hummingbirds are like so finicky.
Yeah, so the reason why they didn't use hummingbirds is because the Pan American Tropical Bird Act of 1923 made it illegal to ship real hummingbirds overseas.
Okay.
So the actual birds they use are they're called wrens and lovebirds, and they got cold feet over the scene. So
they shove her into a glass box and they want the birds to attack her. And these are like peaceful birds. So right. Like, I don't want to attack this lady in this weird chainmail outfit.
So Vadim got this big fan to blow them at Jane. Then they put birdseed in her costume on the theory that once the birds landed, they'd be ready for a meal.
Oh, no.
But by the time the birds got blown through the fan, they had lost their appetites, as well as most of their control over natural body functions. So it was all a little messy. To complicate things, the birds all got together and huddled on the downwind side of Miss Fonda, who was afraid she might squash a couple of hundred. After 2 weeks of this, she got a fever.
Not just a couple of hundred.
A couple of hundred. There were a lot of birds in that scene.
There were so many birds in there.
My God.
But it's like you hear just a couple and you're like, yeah. And then you're like 100. You're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And after 2 weeks of this, listen, it's a very short scene, which credit to the editor.
Could have been cut.
It looked like it was just a short scene, but it was like 2 weeks of shooting this.
Weeks.
And she got a fever and was hospitalized.
Because they were pooping on her because they were scared little birds. And you all have heard of like the aviary flu and stuff, right? Like avian flu, like birds get you sick.
And I'm going to talk about how she got skinned. I feel absolutely flayed alive, Jane said. First, they put the plaster on without anything on underneath and took off about 7 yards of skin. And my tummy was sore to begin with. See, in the planet I land on, people travel by being shot through plastic tubes by compressed air. So we did this scene where I get shot through the tube and my stomach got skinned on the plastic. Ouch. So Roger decided to try it again, only this time they sprinkled the tube with talcum powder. And then it worked so well that I hurtled out the other end of the tube.
Oh my God.
And at this juncture, Vadim came in from the next room and took a seat. She is a brave girl, he said, patting her hand fondly. You will not believe the scenes she is doing for this movie. Just the other day, for example, we hung her upside down in an enormous vat of oil and dry ice. The dry ice made the vapors, Jane said. That's right, said Vadim. You see, the oil wasn't actually boiling. He shrugged his shoulders as if to suggest that the director could hardly be expected to boil his wife in oil when the movie is only half finished.
Couldn't, it wasn't boiling, but it was still oil, sir. Like, no one thought it was boiling. Oh my gosh. Divorce.
Yeah. Honestly, like after reading this, I'm like, you know what? Divorce.
I'd be interested. Do you know, because you said he had a history of like, he was married to Bridget Bardot before Jane Fonda.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder how long after this they separated.
Oh, let me see this.
Yeah, that's a good question. Because like, was this like during like, because like, this is so many reasons for divorce.
So the movie came out in 1968.
Yeah.
So he was married to Bridget Bardot from 1952 to 1957.
Okay. Oh.
And then Annette Streuberg from 1958 to 1961. And then to Jane Fonda from 1965 to 1973. So she really...
73. Okay.
She was really with him for like another 6 years after that. 6 years.
I wonder what broke the relationship if it wasn't being boiled in oil.
If it wasn't that,
yeah.
What was it?
All right.
That's curious. It's very curious.
Yeah.
She also didn't enjoy. She described that she had discomfort on the film set. In her autobiography, Fonda said that Vadim began drinking during lunch. His words slurred. And, quote, his decisions about how to shoot scenes often seemed ill-considered.
Ooh.
And she was also bulimic at the time. And she felt like a young woman who hated her body while she was playing a scantily clad, sometimes naked sexual heroine.
Yeah.
And she just did not feel good when she was shooting that. And Vadim will later state in his own memoir that Fonda didn't enjoy shooting Barbarella. Specifically,
he knew?
Yeah, he didn't. She didn't enjoy it. Did not.
Yep. Ugh.
So yeah.
That's so like, it's really difficult because obviously like if she's going through bulimia, she already had like a lot of like mental faculties like hurting her, but I wish she could have enjoyed it because like she looks so badass in that movie. It's good to know that like Jane Fonda is like still around and awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I hope that it like made her better because she looks really cool in that movie.
Yeah. It's like a lot of things where like when you're young, you have all these insecurities, and then you grow a little older. Like, wait, why did I
exactly.
Why did I think that way?
I thought I was so ugly at 18 and I was like, girl. So now anytime I'm like, you're ugly, I'm like, you shut your mouth. Because in 2 years you'll be like, why did I say that? So I've tricked myself into knowing that I'm hot.
I remember when I was like my early 20s, like late teens, actually, I remember I want to discuss this here first because it's relevant to like a future project I'm going to be on. When I was 18, I had a conversation with myself before I started college. Like, I'm not the most handsomest guy. I'm not the most athletic. I'm not that smart. But one thing I have going for me in dating is I'm funny. And I'm going to use that as long as possible. And
that's good.
And then I realized like, wait a minute. Why did I think I was ugly? I'm looking at old pictures of myself.
I'm like, excuse me, you're not ugly.
And I also like had insecurities with like my own body as well. Especially like around when I was like 22 or whatever. And I took a picture with this girl like when I first met her, like when I first started university, right? I'm like, oh, it's just a nice picture we took. And I looked back at the picture because it was 4 years ago, and I look back, I'm like, wait a minute. I had nice hair. My hair was nice.
Have nice hair.
Like it was like slicked back. It looked nice. I was like, I wasn't as fat as I thought I was, It's
Aww.
like, man, what was I thinking about? Like, why was I so insecure around the women?
We're
like,
our own worst critics.
It's true. So what Jane Fonda went through, it's not unique to her in a way. So like, it's something that we can all understand and we can all relate to. Is what I'm trying to get at by relating my own story to this.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. As far as the reception to the film, it's pretty much what we said, where like we enjoyed the art direction, the costumes, set design, but the story is just lacking.
Yeah, there's
And
not
people
really a
have said
story
that.
for being based. I know nothing about the comics either, so I'm not sure if there's also no stories in these, but a lot of times comics are pretty elaborate and like long form stories that you can use as a base, right?
Hmm. And even if not, if you get a really good writer, they can
Yeah, that
actually
too. Yeah.
make something
Just
out of it.
just hire a writer and an editor.
Like, oh my gosh, it's difficult enough to adapt something onto the screen, but I feel like with this, it could have been better with just editing it, like just the
Yeah.
story, just the
Just
screenplay.
literally, yeah.
Just
like,
go
just
for it. Like, go one more
chop in
time.
20 minutes. I think they could have made a better movie even.
Yeah.
Keep the nudity though.
Yeah, nudity is fine. Like, let's
Yeah.
keep that. Let's keep
Yeah.
that. There's this one reviewer. I'm not going to go into too much into what he said, but the way his review concluded, he said, his name is Dan Bates. He wrote in Film Quarterly. He concluded his review by saying, in the year that Stanley Kubrick and Franklin Schaffner finally elevated the science fiction movie beyond the abyss of the kiddie show, Roger Vadim has knocked it right back down.
Ooh.
And it's
Burn.
harsh.
Yeah. Burn.
And
My gosh.
for those of you who don't know, Franklin Schaffner is the guy who directed Planet of the Apes. So
That is a burn.
yeah, it's quite the elaborate burn. I don't think we get enough of that these days. We're like, people are like, oh well, you suck. What?
Yeah, no, this is like an intellectual, like you have
On
to
an
like think about
intellectual
that.
level.
Yeah. You're like,
I'm
oh,
like, whoa.
wait a minute. Wait a minute.
You have to think about it. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
What?
It's like one of those where I was like, I feel like, are you insulting me? Like,
So, as far as like its legacy and influence, it's influenced a lot of popular culture today and also from the 90s. So, the film's costumes influenced Jean-Paul Gaultier's designs in The Fifth Element, the movie that starred Bruce Willis and Chris Tucker.
I always forget he's in that movie.
Chris Tucker or Bruce Willis?
Bruce Willis. I don't know. Bruce Willis is like, I had a weird thing. Like, I hated him. I don't know why. I had like a weird thing against Bruce Willis. And then I watched, I don't know what movie it was, but I was like, oh no, he's like a good actor. I need to chill out. So now whenever I see him and stuff, I'm like, oh, I'm like happily surprised. I'm like, oh, here he is. Hello.
It's so funny because like he eventually, I guess like the second half of his career was more like action films. When at first it was all comedy. And when he first started in Die Hard, when people heard that he was going to be the action star, they laughed because he wasn't known for that.
Him as not an action star.
He's not known. He wasn't known for that. And like,
I know. Yeah.
He's just a really good actor. Like he could play both. He could do both.
Sixth Sense is a good movie.
See the twist.
That's my favorite sense. The Sixth Sense.
The twist in that movie is that the main character was played by Bruce Willis the whole time.
Right?
Let's see. And I guess the biggest influence is the English new wave band Duran Duran, taking this name from the film's
Duran Duran. They just took the D off the end because it's Durand is the Durand is the name of the evil guy.
Yeah.
But they are Duran Duran. And I had no idea. That blew my mind. I was like, I immediately was like, is that? My partner was like, yes, that is where Duran Duran came from. I was like,
wow.
Oh, see, I'm learning.
Mm-hmm. In their concert film called Arena, Milo Uche reprised his role from Barbarella for that concert film.
That's so cool.
And other music videos were influenced by Barbarella include Kylie Minogue. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
There we go. Her song "Put Yourself in My Place," Katy Perry's "E.T.," "Break Free" by Ariana Grande, and "In Walks Barbarella" by Clutch. And some people have said that like Lady Gaga has drawn influence from Barbarella, and I agree.
I would think so. She does a lot of like metallic, and she's blonde classically too, but metallic like armor outfits. She also works a lot with Jean-Paul Gaultier, so I feel like yeah.
Okay. And also, what was the last album she just released? Is like Chromatica, whatever.
Chromatica, yeah.
Yeah. So I could see the huge influence from that on there too.
Definitely.
There was a proposed sequel to the film. Producer Robert Evans said that its working title would be Barbarella Goes Down.
Where's she going? She goes to Australia.
She goes down. That's not what I thought when I heard that.
No, I don't know.
She goes down.
It sounds
Like something else.
Oh my.
Oh my.
Oh my.
With Undersea Adventures, Terry Sutherland said that he was contacted by De Laurentiis in 1990 to write a sequel, quote,
Who is
on the cheap.
Giada De Laurentiis' dad, the chef with the really big head? Have you ever seen her? Giada De
No.
Laurentiis. Yeah. She's his daughter. She's like a all over Food Network.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So the nepotism.
Yep, exactly.
Well, he was contacted by him in 1990 to write a sequel, quote, on the cheap, but with plenty of action and plenty of sex, and possibly starring Fonda's daughter.
That's fun.
Yeah. And a new version of Barbarella was proposed in the 2000s, and director Robert Rodriguez from Spy Kids fame
Nice.
was interested in developing a version of the release after the release of Sin City. Universal Pictures planned to produce the film with Rose McGowan playing Barbarella.
Okay.
And when the film's budget exceeded $80 million, Universal withdrew, and Rodriguez said he didn't want it to make it look like Vadim's film, didn't want to make it look like the classic film. So he searched for alternate financing, and he found a studio in Germany which would provide a $70 million budget.
Okay.
But he eventually left the project because using the studio would require a long separation from his family. And on October 11th, 2022, so just 11 days ago.
That's so crazy.
Deadline reports that Sydney Sweeney will star as the titular character and will also produce the film. And Sydney Sweeney, if you don't know, she's one of the actresses who is on Euphoria, and she's young, she's blonde, and she is not unfamiliar to doing nudity on screen.
Okay.
So she's, I guess, it would be the perfect modern person to do this character in the modern day.
I bet she's a good actress too if she's on Euphoria. It seems to get really good reviews. Yeah,
and I haven't seen Euphoria, so I can't really attest to that fact.
I know I can't either, but I know Zendaya's on it, and Zendaya's great, and they've won awards, so I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and that's all the information that I learned for today.
I feel like I just need to reiterate that we're trending, that we picked this movie, and then they announced a new movie. Like that's like
before they announced it too. We picked it before
they came into exactly before. This was like over a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
They came into our brains and they said, "What do you think is cool right now?" And we said Barbarella, and they said, "Cool, we're gonna take that from you." So
I feel like they do that with me all the time.
Right? Me too. I'm like, how does everybody know my ideas?
I've always had that paranoia since I was like 8 years old. I'm like, they'll make like a new show. I'm like, how the fuck did you get my idea?
How did you know?
I always had this elaborate scheme going on where like the me from the future like wrote all these stories, and then a rival like took all these stories from me, like robbed them from me, went back to the past because that was like the prime time to release all these shows.
You Marty McFly'd yourself.
Yeah, there we go.
Exactly.
But he robbed it from future me, knowing that past me couldn't do a thing because I'm just a little 8-year-old kid who doesn't know how to fight yet. Who doesn't know how
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that was my explanation as to like why all these shows like had like similar ideas to what I had.
I'm glad you were able to rationalize it. I think they were just stealing your ideas. They just knew. They were listening.
Yeah. So that concludes our conversation today. Thank you so much, Katrina, for being here and for bearing with me for another recording for this.
Some would say fat dog for midterms. Sorry, that was a Community reference. Zoom and I love Community. Sorry, I called you Zoom too.
Yeah, you called me Zoom. I was like,
Jason and I love Community. Thank you for having me. This was really fun. And honestly, I'm kind of glad that we redid it because I feel like we got the best possible scenario ending. So
yeah, we
edited. We did a rehearsal. We learned from Barbarella.
So this is gonna be a very tough question.
Okay.
Was Barbarella a hit or a miss with you?
Ooh. Okay. I guess it depends on the quality of here, because if it's like, do you want to watch this again? No, I don't ever want to watch that movie again. But do I find parts of it iconic and inspiring? Yes. So would I call it a hit in that sense? Probably. The fact that it's still being like, people know what Barbarella is and it's from 1968, I would call it a hit for that alone almost.
But is it a hit with you?
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it. You know, it was a little slow, but I was enjoying it enough that I took notes. And it wasn't just because we're on the podcast, it was because I wanted to look up the costumer later on. So, yeah.
I would say for me, I can't call it a miss.
Right? You can't.
I as far as like the story, like conventionally, like any other film, this would be a miss.
Yeah.
But they did such a great job with the costumes, with the set design, practical effects. Like you have to be amazed by like just how much that went into like the technicalities of the film to make the movie magic, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to say it's a hit because I've said other movies are hits and they're like definite hits.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess on a technicality, I would call this movie a hit for me as well.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I am. It's not like I'm gonna go around and recommend this movie to people, but I would not also like diss it in front of people, you know? I'd be like, they could work on their pacing, but like it's iconic. Like, you know who Barbarella is. Everyone does. So
yeah. And like if there's like a book of the costumes, like showcasing the costume,
my gosh.
I would get it.
Me too.
I would get it. It's just like inspirational, you know?
Yeah.
If there's a costume based on the film, maybe I'll wear it. I'm not sure if I can go out in that in public.
What, you don't want to wear a diaper and huge wings?
Oh, listen, if the wings aren't like practical, I'm not wearing it.
Yeah, they need to be practical. They need to move. You need to be able to fly.
I don't have 6-pack abs, you know, and I don't speak like this. I am not Pygar. I am Jason. I am Jason.
You do a pretty good Pygar impression, though.
Listen, if it's that easy to do it, and if I'm able to do it, it's not impressive.
You're not wrong.
All right. So, Katrina, where can we find you on social media?
You can find me all over as AbraCatrena, AbraCatrena. I'm on Twitch mostly, but I also have an Instagram. Come hang out. We craft and do stuff.
Yeah, it's a good time on Twitch all the
fun.
time. Yeah. I sometimes like pop up in.
I always love when you pop in. It's my favorite. I'm like, oh, we have a sighting. We have a Jason sighting. It's very exciting.
Pop. Sometimes it'll be from work, like pop from the lunchroom, or sometimes I'll be in traffic, like pop from traffic.
Yeah, pop from bumper to bumper traffic. Sometimes you're walking the pub.
Yeah,
it's always good to see a Zoom sighting. I feel it's like a blessing, like you like saw a double rainbow.
Thank you. Except you see the birds right here.
The birds, yeah.
Birds.
Watch out.
That's it for today, folks. You've been listening to the Hit List Podcast. This was Season 5, Episode 6. My name is Jason, and until next time, cross off a new film from your list. Bye.
Bye.